So you've built a rail network to connect the different parts of your base together. Great choice. It's way better than the Elytra. But now you want to decorate it, so that long journey isn't too boring. Well, you've come to the right place, because in this video, I'm going to be showing you 10 unique rail network designs, including a jungle island outpost, a spooky cave, and a farm station. Let's jump right into it. So starting us off here with number 1, we have this really awesome tunnel design that I came up with. Now, it is definitely nowhere near the cheapest thing in the world, but if you have a good tree farm, it is definitely worth setting something like this up. So I'm just gonna hop out here and grab my minecart. Oh, well, that's gone. Anyway, I'll show you guys how I made it here. So it's very, very simple. It is just a repeating pattern of sugarcane, glowberry, sugarcane, glowberry. And what's nice is these provide a little bit of light in places where I've taken them out. And then the next one is bamboo, and some of them are taking absolutely forever to grow. This thing has been set up for weeks now, and I'm still waiting for some of this bamboo to grow. But on top here, we have an alternating pattern. Every second pillar structure is actually one lower than the one before it. So it gives this really cool alternating pattern where I can stuff some leaves and stuff and make it look a little bit overgrown. What I really like about doing that though is when you're walking through, it's not the same everywhere, and I've also purposefully messed up on the panels here, the trapdoor, because I think it looks kind of weird and it kind of makes it a little bit more visually interesting to have it like change every so often. And honestly, I'm not too sure which one is best, so you guys can let me know in the comments. And if I could just give one tip for when you're trying to design your own tunnel, something that I found works really well is to make the floor mirror the ceiling. So this floor here is the rail and a stair and then a block, and obviously you can't put the rail on the ceiling, but the block pattern is exactly the same. So when you look on a super long distance, if you didn't have this, let's say, it still looks really cool because it gives it kind of a more polished finish, and rounding it out is also a really good idea as much as possible. So you can use stairs, you can use a full block maybe if you're working on a bigger scale, but rounding it out makes it look a lot more interesting when you're looking down the tunnel on a long distance. And so there you go, a really nice tunnel design to get us started here. Just make sure you have a haste beacon when you set this up, because it takes absolutely forever to dig out. Anyway, let's move on to number 2. So this next one I actually showed in the promo, and it's probably my favorite one, and I'm gonna show it to you guys in this order because it is absolutely massive. And I really fell down a rabbit hole while I was making this. So the first thing that you come to is this beautiful little like patio or pergola, I guess. I don't know what you would call it, but this is the actual station. So this is where you pull off. And from here, there are a few different directions that you can go, and I will be expanding this in future videos. So if you want to see that, don't forget to subscribe. But anyways, I did expand all the way down into here, making some fields along the way, but these are not really about the track, right? So what I've done for most of this track is use coarse dirt, and then I sprinkle in different materials depending on where we are in the world. So that would be the first concrete tip that I could give, is use the same materials throughout the sections of your rail, but maybe depending on the biome, switch them out and add some flowers and all that stuff. I also built these walls here. These are really simple. It's just cobble and leaves, but I think the look is effective as a tool to kind of cut your eye line and sort of lead you down a path. I also made a really ugly custom tree, and as we come along here, you can see I kind of blend in some wood to make it go into the station. It's a pretty simple little area, but I think I'm gonna get a lot of use out of it in the future, and I even have some villagers farming for me here. So that is the farm station design. Let's move on to the next one on the list. So since the last two were pretty build-centric and more industrialized, I thought I would just take a little nature moment here and show you guys a track design which is a lot more natureful and more terraforming oriented. That was definitely a real sentence. Anyway, let's start at the beginning here. So this is the forest section of my track, and you'll see as the video goes, I've got a few different biome ideas. This one is probably the simplest though. It is just some trees around the track with some coarse dirt and some plants strategically placed, and also the buttons make for really cool little rocks on the ground. The trick to these is just don't overdo them, and where there is one, always put another not too far away, so that way it looks like there's little piles and they've been collecting in these areas, with a water feature down here, which was actually just an ugly little cave that I just filled up with water, and down there it is more ugly little cave, but we don't see it, so it's okay. And as we keep going down with these custom trees on either side, we get to the next one. These two were kind of like mini ones, so we'll just kind of combine them here in this section of the video. This is what I started doing when I didn't want to just make the track go over a small little hill. I think it adds a lot of detail, and since we were going into the jungle, I tried to use the same blocks as the jungle temple a little bit, and I really like how this turned out. It's a really cool way to cut through the mountain and make it look like this has been here for a long time, and like the track is established in your world. On either side of the track, I have put stairs facing inward to give it kind of a more permanent feel as compared to the dirt variants that I've been showing so far, and of course a few different leaf designs. The only thing this thing would be missing, I would say, if I were to do it again, would probably be to try and add more tree cover, because it kind of takes you out of it when you see the mega build right on top of it. So maybe we'll make one like this, but more in a tunnel form with the trees on top. I don't know, let me know what you guys think. But those are the two next ones. Now let's move on to another awesome biome that I've been working on. Before we keep going to the next biome, it might be interesting at this point to show you guys a rail switcher to have toggleable directions in your rail system. So I'm actually in a creative world here, and I just set up this little example to give you an idea of what I'm talking about. Basically, you shoot this target block here and it will dispense an item. Now, what's cool about having it dispense an item is you can toggle a 1-minute timer with an arrow or a 5-minute timer with a block. And basically what that'll do is, let's say you were coming down the track here and I got in this minecart and I wanted to turn. Well, I shoot it and I can go straight instead of right. Now, what I didn't do obviously is put like a sign saying which way goes where. That's because these go nowhere, but that might be interesting to do. Basically, underneath it, I set up this little example. The arrow will hit this pressure plate, and this pressure plate will hit the repeater with a torch. Now, there is a bit of nuance to this build, so you will want to place this thing appropriately and have the repeater timings depending on how far this is from the junction, because if it's really far away, this might not be enough. You want to time it so that you'll have time to shoot it when you're like right here, and as you go by, it'll change under you so you can go in either direction. And obviously, this would be a section of track you would want to slow down a little bit to give yourself time to hit the target block. Now, you could obviously also do this with like a snowball or something if you were a bit cheaper. You could even set up a system where maybe you hit a detector rail and a snowball pops up and you pick it up, and then you could shoot it if you were really motivated, which if your track is like mine and it's thousands of blocks long, you might not be. But anyways, let's move on to the next biome design here. This one is really awesome. Let's jump right in. And we are back in the survival world, ready to show you the next build idea. It's actually right down here. If I can land without taking too much damage, oh, pretty cool. So this next one is the Birch forest design. This one, as you can see, does have a little bit of variation in blocks. I find that the podzol looks really good with the birch, so I've sprinkled it a little bit everywhere here. Now, when you come into this biome, I've set up some eye lines to where there's a little campsite here, and we go down the track and there's little bridges on the cliffs. This is a really cheap way to make your rail look like it belongs, is just adding some blocks to just kind of bar off these steeper drops, and we have these little pergolas here every so often. If I keep walking here instead of talking, I can give you a better idea of the whole track. And of course, a nice spam of leaves everywhere with some buttons and some cobble. So some elements do stay the same. I just changed out the leaves. If you remember the farm design, another little pergola, and we keep coming up here, and it just keeps going basically for a really long time. So this is a way of doing a biome for really cheap. I haven't really touched any of the blocks. I haven't really terraformed. I've just kind of added my track into the biome with some sprinkles of life and some custom trees, which, by the way, if you'd like to see a video, I've got like 10 different custom tree design ideas to share with all of you. So let me know if you want to see that. I will work on that video soon. Anyways, I like to keep it sort of survival looking. I think that's an element of Minecraft that is missing in the Let's Play and like just YouTube sphere in Minecraft. A lot of people build stuff that's way too big and completely unachievable in Minecraft for the average person. So I'm trying to bring it back to the roots and make it much simpler and a lot easier. So this is the Birch Forest. Now let's move on to something a little bit spookier. So this next one is actually just beside the farm district, and it connects my main base to my tree farm. And it's just this really nice little cave design here. I got really lucky. I was actually planning on making this a tunnel, but then there was a cave in the hole, and I didn't actually touch any of the cave. Believe it or not, it came like this. I just spammed moss everywhere, which is a really cheap way of making something look a lot better. And of course, I hid the torches underneath the moss carpets. I've also added some little movement elements every so often that are independent from the player, which I think add a lot of life and lore to the space. And of course, I decorated the ceiling a little bit here. And as we keep going, you'll see just a few little planted details that I've added. I did try and use these glowberries for lighting as much as possible on the track. And as we go up here, you'll see I really didn't touch the cave at all. This is pure vanilla generation, making this a really simple design, really cost effective. This thing took maybe 3 hours to set up and was definitely worth it. I even put some trees inside the cave where there's some light shafts, which we can't really see because it's dark out, but up there's light, and I did it all over the place as much as possible. And then we get to the we don't talk about it section, which will be the next section of tunnel that I will make maybe another time though, because this is kind of an unseen part of the world. But anyway, if you wanted to make this yourself, it's basically 3 slabs wide with some pillars going up and some stairs and a trapdoor to kind of soften the angle a little bit. And I spammed some fences and leaves a little bit everywhere. It's a really nice tunnel design. I really like it. And if I had to pick a favorite section of tunnel, it would probably have to be this one, just because I really like caves, if you couldn't tell from the world tour. But anyway, let's move on to the next build idea. I don't think I could have made a rail video without including a few bridges, and this one is really special because it actually just goes by the museum that we're working on the channel and is actually connected to the Birch forest, which is weird. I don't know why I paste them out this way, but here's where the bridges are in the video. If I fly out here, I'm still trying to keep that very vanilla and simple to build aesthetic for this project, just because it is such a huge project, and I'm sure that if you're making one too, you know exactly what I'm talking about. But I did want to give it some flair and give it some unique features that would make it stand out from the other bridges in the world, kind of like I did with the biomes. So this one has these really cool little like roof units every second pillar. Now there's only 3 pillars, so only 2, but I think that they add a lot to the overall look of the bridge, and I think that they look really, really nice overall. Other than that, it is mostly andesite. I feel like I don't use andesite enough, and it's a really slept on block, this polished andesite. I love it a lot. And underneath, just to give it a little bit more detail, I did add some spruce wood to kind of give it like the hold the up E feature. that is definitely an architectural term, just to keep it sort of look like it's propped up, and also just to give it a bit more color and difference on the underside. I didn't add too many fences or anything on the underneath because, let's be honest, building something like this high up is a pain in the butt, and I didn't want to go too crazy because the goal is to be building these pretty quick, especially if your world is really, really big. And of course, on the bottom, I just make it look like it's been crumbling a little bit on the ground. Now, if you wanted to make this pillar, it's one of my favorite pillars of all time. It's just a plus. Do I have any blocks on me? Yeah, it is just a plus like this. And then on each corner, you're adding a wall or a fence if you're making it out of wood, and it gives it this like really detailed, rounded look, which I really, really like. And this connects into this tunnel over here, so you can see where everything kind of connects in the world. And if you're really following the video, you would know that the rail actually goes that way a few thousand blocks, which will bring us to our next destination. All right, I've got a confession to make for this next one. I actually haven't linked it quite yet to the rest of the rail network, because it is about a 4,000 block journey if we want to get to our guardian temple here, aka Plankton. Kind of looks like plankton. But anyways, since we are in the tropical forest over here, I thought it would be cool to design something kind of reminiscent of like a hacienda or something like that, with this beautiful fake island here, which we won't talk about the underside. Basically, this is a pretty simple design. It's basically an L with a little protrusion on the front. And the idea is you will come in on the rail, which will be crossing the ocean and the mountains and everything. Kind of like the Lord of the Rings memes. And you'll come in here and you'll stop at the end over here where there is some storage and of course multiple floors which you can explore. Now, this place is really cool, and I'm really excited to actually finish it up and use it in my survival world here. I really like the design. I'm really proud of it. What I did end up doing, if you're curious and you want to make something similar, there are up here, these are actually lecterns with a jungle trapdoor on top, and these roofs are pretty simple. It's just half slabs going up, or I guess just regular slabs going up. And of course, trying to add as much roofing detail as possible with the leaves and everything, and every side of this build is complete. And of course, the easiest thing to do would have been put the dock on the front here, directly into the eye of the plankton, which is alright, I guess. But honestly, I think it's cool to kind of try and do things a little bit more asymmetrically and a little bit less linear, and to use the liminal space a little bit differently. So I put the dock on the side. Really stupid little comment there I had to make. I had to include it. But yeah, the dock is on the side, not on the front, which I think adds a lot. So I'll just give it a quick little flyby if you wanted to build something like this. And of course, these trees are custom trees. These are pretty basic trees. Basically what I do is I just make a Y and then you some leaves on top of them and make a few droopies, and of course you add some fences of the appropriate wood variation and you get something like this. So that is the Jungle Island train station. Let's jump into the next one. Boy, does time ever fly. This is actually number 10 already. This is a super simple one that I think is definitely worth looking into if you're making really long tunnels, because it looks really good, and honestly the time investment is very minimal. And it is very simple to set something like this up. It really doesn't take a lot of time, and I find that it looks really good for the dimensions of it. Obviously, you could go big and epic and then make a clickbait thumbnail, but I like stuff like this. I think it's a lot more homey and realistic. So basically, to make this, you will take your track level, which is right here, and you'll just dig down 3 blocks and fill it with water. And then every 3 blocks, you dig out 3, 3, 3, and then you just sprinkle in some cobble and some other blocks where you can and where you want to. It really depends. You could do a lot of different stuff with this simple design. And then some stairs on top with some leaves and stuff on the ceiling. I think it looks really cool because it's really simple. and it's like pretty straightforward to make. Making this tunnel probably took about 15 minutes, so not that crazy long. Anyways, that is the last one that we have time for today. If you guys have any other ideas on minecart designs that I should look into and maybe showcase in another video, or you just want to share with the people in the comments, leave it down there. I'll be really happy to read those and respond to you. And if you want to talk a little bit more and you have some other questions or ideas, feel free to join my Discord, which is brand new, so come in and say hi. Anyways, I'll catch you guys next time. Take care.